Going down. Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachaha Kwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And as always, double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And welcome to another series of It's Going Down, being brought to you by the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Missile strikes Norwegian tanker in Red Sea. Houthi rebels have carried out series of attacks on vessels which they claim are bound for Israel. Okay, so this is pretty much Iran, I guess you could say, sending a message to the so-called Israelis like, look, we're not gonna let anybody give you more ammunition. I'm not saying there was ammunition on that ship, but you get what I'm saying, giving you relief, stock, artillery, whatever was on that ship, it was pretty much struck down by Iran-backed Houthi rebels. So what we're seeing right here is confrontation heating up between Iran and the so-called Israelis, which is Bible prophecy, by the way, especially presuming to Jeremiah 50 verse 45, which speaks about, the least of the flock, which is the so-called Israelis, drawing out Babylon into their confrontation against Iran. Because ultimately, that's what it's going to lead to. But before that, well, actually, while that might be happening, the uh, the CHIP, if you will, is becoming mandatory, or it will become mandatory. So a missile fired by Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels struck a Norwegian-flagged tanker in the Red Sea on Monday, a representative of the Islamist rebel group has confirmed. Okay, okay. And it's interesting how they say Islamist because Islamist was also mentioned in that article that I did, where you know, a FBI informant basically came out and said that America is under a great risk of a terrorist attack by the Islamic Republic or the Islamist. So could they be trying to tie a terrorist attack to Iran? Hmm. It sounds like Jeremiah 50 and 45, right? Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. But the attack on the oil and chemical tankers Strenda is the latest flashpoint in a campaign by the Houthis during which they have attacked and in at least one case seized ships navigating close to the Bab el Mandeb straight off Yemen's coast. Rebel Group has previously stated its intention to confront any vessels in the area believed to be destined for Emelec, prompting concerns, and I say Emelec because Emelec is in that land. Okay, the true Israelites are not in that land. According to biblical prophecy, the Israelites will be scattered on the four corners of the earth, meaning they'll be scattered on the northern, southern, eastern, and western parts of the world. So, prompting concerns for the Israel-Hamas conflict. uh, Prompting concerns that the Israel-Hamas conflict could spiral into a deeper regional crisis and threaten shipping routes coming through the Suez Canal. You see that? So things are heating up over there, man. And while things are heating up over there, Esau's getting ready to plan another terrorist attack upon this country and put the blame on Hamas or the Islamists. So this was a oil and chemical tanker, right? Which they struck down. So what would that be considered as? An act of war. You see, as a matter of fact, I have a scripture, but I wonder if I can find it. Is that Isaiah 13? Let me see. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 1. There you go. Okay, so Isaiah chapter 13, verse 4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, right? It says a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. And what do we see happening? We see kingdoms of nations gathering together over where? Over there in the Middle East. Okay. And a matter of fact, I'm going to get that in Joel 3 next, right? Because that's where the Lord is mustering the host of the battle. Okay. Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, the Lord of hosts, mustereth the host of the battle. Now, the word muster means to gather. As a matter of fact, let's look it up. Let's see, mustereth the host of the battle, right? Mustereth. Paquad. Okay. The Hebrew word there is paquad. Okay.
Strong's H 6485. Pakad. Pakad.
Fuck out of here. Pacad. The pacad. No, it's paquad. Anyway, okay. So you can see we're here to attend to, muster, number, reckon, punish. See, look after. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me see. Visit. Okay, the Lord is also visiting the armies. Okay, for what? For his purpose. Okay, to be appointed, to be visited upon, and trust. Okay, entrust, commit, deposited, visited, be entrusted. Okay, lay upon as a charge. Okay, so let's back out here and let's read this in the NLT. Okay, scroll up here. Let's read this in the NLT. Okay, um, let me see. One moment, please. KJV. Too bad they don't have the G and T on here. Would be cool if they did. So let's see, Isaiah chapter 13, verse 4 in the NLT. Hear the noise of the mountains. Listen to the vast armies march. You see that? And hey, armies are marching, man. Armies are marching. You got China's army marching. You got Russia's army marching. You got North Korea's army marching. Okay. You got Libya's army marching. The U.S. Army marching. Okay, EU's armies marching, Germany's armies marching. Okay, Iran's armies is marching, Turkey's army is marching. These armies are marching. They're marching towards what? The Middle East, because that's ultimately where World War III is going to take place at. It is the noise and shouting of many nations. Yeah, armies going to war. Yahweh of heaven's armies has called his army together. You see that? So the word muster literally means to bring together. But, where is the Lord gathering them at? He's gathering them in the Middle East. They come from distant countries. They come from distant countries, right? Is not Russia a distant country from Iran? Is not the US a distant country from Iran? Is not Germany a distant country from the Middle East? Is not Turkey a distant country from the Middle East? Okay. Is not the EU a distant country from the Middle East? They come from distant countries, from beyond the farthest horizons. They are Yahweh's weapons to carry out his anger. Okay? With them, he will destroy the whole land. And that's cold because ultimately, what's going to come from these distant countries? Those ICBM nuclear missiles. That's what's going to come from those distant countries. Okay? So you're going to have intercontinental ballistic missiles coming from Russia, from Germany, from Turkey, from Iran, from the EU, even the EU, because even the European Union is going to turn on the United States of America. Okay? Scream in terror, for the day of Yahweh has arrived, the time for the Almighty to destroy. And that day will indeed be a day of great terror. And we can only hope to be of the elect and to be delivered from 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 such a terrifying rampage, because the Lord is going to be on a rampage in that day, and we can only hope to be in those chariots when the Lord rains those nukes down on this country. But okay, so that's the NLT. Let's go to Joel 3:9. Sorry, Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Let's read this in the KJV first. Okay, Joel chapter 3, verse 9 in the KJV. Okay, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Now, the Gentiles of Joel 3 and 9 is talking about anybody who is not an Israelite. So, if your father's lineage on your father's side, do not go back to a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native Indian, you would be considered a Gentile, which will be a heathen. Okay? So proclaim ye this among the heathens. Prepare war. And what do you think these nations have been doing all along? Twiddling with their thumbs, playing hopscotch and skip to Maloo? No, they've been preparing for war. Okay? Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Now, plowshares and pruning hooks can be used as weapons, right? But what exactly do they mean by beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears? In other words, upgrade your weapons and upgrade your artillery, you see, because at one point, right, America was the only country with weapons of mass destruction. And an example of that is what? Atomic bombs, such as Skinny Boy and Fat Boy. Okay, which those weapons were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki down in Japan, which had extremely devastating impacts on those regions, right? So as time passed on, right, countries began to enrich themselves in uranium, different types of metals and chemicals, and different types of things needed to upgrade their weapons. And now what do we see? We see countries with missiles. We see countries with rockets. We see countries with bombs. And now we're starting to see countries with nukes. Not starting. Now we see countries with nukes. So these countries went from having weak artillery to having powerful, very powerful artillery, such as nuclear warheads, hydrogen bombs, sonic missiles, Satan tubes. You see? So that's your example of these countries beating their plowshares into swords. They went from having weak weapons to having powerful ones. And that's why America is not just running into these countries just doing whatever they want. Because they know that if they do that, these countries can just shoot nukes on this country and be done with it. You see that? So beat your plowshares into swords, upgrade your weapons and your artillery, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And the weak, these countries which were once regarded as weak, can now say they are strong because they have weapons of mass destruction. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Okay. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. You see that? So let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. You see that? And that's exactly what's going to happen. That's exactly what's happening right now as I speak. Okay? Come up, right? Come up, gather together, as I read in Isaiah 13. The Lord is gathering these nations together. He's mustering the armies. He's gathering together. He's gathering these armies together over there in the Middle East for the sake of bringing judgment upon them. Thus, which is what Yahweh Shaphat means. It literally means Yahweh's the judge, because Yahweh is going to be the one to judge those heathens over there in the Middle East. Now let's read Joel chapter 3, verse 9 to 12 in the NLT. NLT. Okay. Joel chapter 3, verse 9 in the NLT. Say to the nations far and wide, get ready for war. Call out your best warriors. You see that? Let all your fighting men advance for attack. Up, and what do we see here? Well, Iran is one of those nations who's advancing for attack. And what do we see as a result? We see them striking down a ship that was carrying oil and chemicals. Hammer your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Train even your weaklings to be warriors. Come quickly, all you nations everywhere. You see that? All you nations everywhere. Okay? That includes Libya. Okay? That includes Persia and Gomer, which is France. Okay? They're all going to be gathered together. Okay? Okay, come quickly, all you nations everywhere. And that's what's happening, right? The Lord is gathering all nations together over there in the Middle East. Look at that. Gather together, right? The Lord mustereth the armies. Gather together in the valley. Gather together in the valley. And now, O Yahweh, call out your warriors, which are what? The Lord's angels. Let the nations be called to arms. Let them march to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. There I, Yahweh, will sit to pronounce judgment on them all. You see that? Beautiful, man. The Lord is beautiful. Okay. Let's go back to the KJV there. So with that, I'm going to say shalom to the elect. It's on to the next one.